Hello, hello. Oh, look, Muddy's not out and about. You're in a new little location, Muddy. Is that new or is that a green screen? Oh, oh, oh no, just a new background. Oh, look at that. Nice. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of Obvio Q&A. We have an opportunity, hey Marley, we have an opportunity to ask questions about your Obvio usage, things that you might be playing around with and wanting to do. It's an opportunity for us to give you a little update on where we're at, and but mostly about your questions. So we always look at Obvio questions, and then we can talk about digital events in general and how we're using Obvio, and then also we inevitably get talking about production as well. And so happy to discuss those things too. You see the questions on the dashboard that you came through. You can ask a question there. It's the best way to get those questions in. And then you can chat along as we're discussing a particular thing you might want to add to that discussion in the chat. And we can keep along there as well. All right. So I think we've got a couple there. Hello, Heather. Nice to see you. I miss you on the weeks off.
Sorry.
Wow.
Good morning.
It makes it makes these weeks even better. So here we go. What have we got?
So the first one's from Marley. She said, my client is using Eventbrite for ticket sales and MailChimp for emails. They are doing a BOGO sale. And my question is, if someone buys their ticket now, but doesn't know the friend yet, when they update the Eventbrite ticket with their friend's contact info, does that friend get a purchase confirmation email as well? Will that friend be added as an attendee as long as the MailChimp and Obvio are connected?
Mm. Um. Mm. So they when they it depends on when that the second one fires off. Um, is it that you're wanting it to update the name or contact info so they wouldn't even have an email address, right?
Yeah, I stumping you here. So with the Eventbrite and that BOGO ticket sale, usually the challenge is that someone buys the BOGO ticket through Eventbrite
Mm.
because it's a good deal, right? Buy one and you get one. But many times they
Mm.
don't know who they're bringing yet, so they put their name twice. Now we are going to be
Mm.
sending an email saying like, there's a deadline to update your friend's ticket or you forfeit the friend. But the question is, when they update that ticket, I'm assuming Eventbrite and MailChimp, like my client set up a Zap between Eventbrite and MailChimp, and that should update MailChimp, put them into the audience, and that should communicate to Obvio to create an attendee and a magic link, which is communicated back to MailChimp and in their emails, right? Like that friend will get their access to the event. This is in my mind how
I,
it should work, but I don't know.
I love I love your optimism. It sounds simple enough. So the Obvio link is only linked to Mailchimp, correct? There's there's no Zapier tied to Eventbrite or anything tricky there. Okay, so then it just depends on how Eventbrite handles that, the synchronizing uh, back to Mailchimp. So it won't allow, obviously, Mailchimp won't allow to have the same email in there twice, right? Like in that audience. So if they tried to do it twice to start with, then that wouldn't be successful. It may be successful in Eventbrite. Um, so yeah, I guess in theory, the way that you just said it sounds right. I just don't know when it updates that second, how it updates that second one. Um,
I guess
and yeah,
as a foolproof, like I was suggesting to my client was for them to, let's say the day before the event, when they cut off ticket sales, they can send me the CSV file, which would have all the BOGO tickets as they, updated them.
yeah.
And I can just import that, and I guess whatever attendees haven't been created, Obvio create them.
Yep.
But how do they get the email to access the event? I would have to send a broadcast then, separate from MailChimp.
Not necessarily, right? So yes, that's a whole nother approach if we're not looking at the automated one. Blue, good morning, Blue. Afternoon, Blue. I don't know whatever it is. Florida has its own time zone, right? So I don't know if you caught this question, Blue, but we're just talking about buy one get one off of Eventbrite tickets that's synchronizing with MailChimp, and then MailChimp connected to Obvio. Dem bones. So what I'm just, I guess it's the flow I'm not quite sure on Eventbrite, putting in essentially like a bogus friend because I don't know who it is yet. How Eventbrite handles changing that to the real person, and whether that just that MailChimp just sees that as a new subscriber to the audience. If that's the case, then yeah, it just goes to Obvio. They get that comes back to MailChimp, and away it goes. Marley, to what you were just saying then, if you were to sort of disconnect the automation to Obvio and just decide that 24 hours out, 48 hours out, you're going to just take the export, import that, you can connect that back to MailChimp so that MailChimp is doing the, if you want the emails to go out of MailChimp, you can have that synchronize so that then all of the magic links are in MailChimp, and then all the emails can be sent out. Or, as you rightly said, you could do a broadcast directly from Obvio at that point, do a welcome email or that sort of thing. So, but yeah, that's the unknown for me, is how would Eventbrite handle the update of, if you were to update the contact details entirely, name, email, everything, how would that synchronize with MailChimp? And I don't think it would be clever enough to say, remove this subscriber and add this subscriber, but it's a tricky one.
All right.
But you've definitely got that. The manual option is always there. You can certainly do that at the end. But you could do some tests on that. I guess the other thing would be to say, if there's no advantage to them booking early, that they must have the actual contact details of their friend in order to sign up. I don't know if that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think Eventbrite, and I'll get on the chat and then we can move on to another question. I don't know if this is helpful to anybody else, but I know that Eventbrite, and we're going to send in the purchase order confirmation to like the main person. You need to update your ticket. Like there's a link on the Eventbrite ticket that says, update ticket, and then you can update the name and the email or whatever. I guess the question for Eventbrite would be if that is, or is it a question for MailChimp? I'm not sure who the question is.
It kind of is, and this is my guess, right? Is that Eventbrite would handle it fine, and it knows that you have essentially 2 tickets, and you can update those 2 tickets as much as you like, and away it goes. Synchronizing that with MailChimp, I think, is where it would fall over, and it wouldn't know that this old email needs to be removed or updated to this new email. I don't think it would be keeping a unique ID of that record. It would be just using the email address as the identifier in the same way that we do in Obvio. in that sort of connection. And so I think that's where it would get broken. And so, yeah, the complication I think is sending the emails from MailChimp, because you possibly could do a Zapier connection directly with Eventbrite and not have MailChimp, and have the emails go directly out of Obvio.
That's what I suggested, but the client wants to like have all like emails go through their system. So I was like, okay. But as a backup, maybe I can just send a broadcast like the morning of, just in case.
Well, yeah, and you want to handle those last minute registrations if they're allowing those. You want to handle that somehow too, and there's no better way to do that than the welcome broadcast from Obvio, right? That just as soon as it's created, it gets that they get their login information. So anyway, keep us posted. It's an interesting use case, and this is the thing that we tackle on these calls is integrations. We talk about a lot, right? Because people have lots of workflows that we're working on, and so it's good to talk about how it connects together. So hopefully it works. Cool. Heather?
Yeah, so the next one is actually also from Marley. She's working on building the speaker page and having trouble making it look good and consistent. She's hoping that you could take a look and give her some pointers. This is for the organization Lullaby Inc., and the slug is Spark Summit.
This is right up Blues Alley. Have you got your eye in this afternoon, Blue? I take that as a yes.
Yeah, so all right, let's see. So speakers. Yeah, okay, so here's what's going on, Marley, is when you copy and paste text from wherever you're getting this information, you're copying and pasting text that includes formatting. And because of the fact that our editor is an HTML editor, basically, right? So you see all of this, it just includes a whole bunch of formatting. So there's a couple of ways that you can solve this. Easiest way is if you just kind of highlight all the text and you go through and you change all of the, so 12, change that to a default. You remove the color, you remove the background, and just make sure that the font family is also just the default. Now all of a sudden, now you've got your standard. And here's the other thing, that this actually also includes, I'm going to go into this one here, go default, remove color, and so now at least you have consistency. Now, admittedly, you probably are not wanting the text to be that color, but once you have consistency between the two, then you can go through and say, okay, you know what? Now that I've got my consistency, again here, Adriana, I'm just going to go in and change the font size to default. I'm going to remove the background color and remove the foreground color, so at least it's consistent. Then you can say, okay, you know what? I want my body copy, my text here not to be orange. I'd like it to be black. And I don't remember. I think the text color for this is actually being lifted from Design Global Styles, where your text color here is orange. Your default color is orange. So unless there's a reason for, I don't know if there's something going on the dashboard that is requiring you to have orange text. But bottom line, if you want to change the text color on the speaker page, just in one lump, you're just going to go into and go to Global Styles and change it to either black or a charcoal or something like that. And now when you go to speakers, you have this. I don't think we have settings.
So just quickly, Sarah, yes, if you've paste into Notepad, um, as long as Notepad is set to um, plain text, I think on a PC it is. Text edit is what's on a Mac, and text edit defaults to rich text, which includes formatting, but you can change it to plain text, and so you can have it plain text, paste it in there, make sure it all looks great, and then just copy and paste, and then so you can do that. Or I think, as Blue said, you can paste without without formatting. Paste. I can't remember the term, but there's another paste option, right? Paste as plain text is another option that you can do.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That like clarifies. I'm like, why is this being highlighted? I don't know. How can I can I add a divider like in between each speaker? I wasn't really sure if I can do that.
I don't think you can't add a divider, but you can increase the space
Okay.
between each speaker.
That's enough. Yeah.
That's here under the it's called header settings, which probably needs to be changed. But under styling, you have space between speakers, and that will tweak that to give you a little bit more space. Sometimes we've also found, like, everybody's a little bit different, right? But you may be like, you know what, Blue, there's something else going on here. I really don't like how big the text, or how I don't like the formatting. Like, I don't like how that is. I want the let's say you want the speaker name to be below or above the photo. So you can actually insert the image inside of the HTML editor. And then, like, we can force the width to be, like, let's say I wanted to just adjust this to be 250 pixels. So I'll just do it like that. And then do that like that. Again, I'm not suggesting this is the right option for you. But that is how you would technically change,
that.
Right. But so you do have a few options. I'm gonna undo what I just did there for a number of reasons. First off, I just don't think it looks good.
But that's super helpful.
But yeah, cool. And then you can also change your image width, right? Like if your image is just too big, you can just reduce the image width slightly here on the speaker section. And that is not by speaker. It's, even though it's on each individual speaker configuration, it's something that applies to all.
Oh, so if I change the width on one, it applies to all of them.
Exactly. Right. So
Unless
yeah, I adjusted it down. Like, I adjusted these down to 3 from 4, and it adjusted all of them.
Great. Thank you. That's super helpful. All right.
All right. Yeah, and you can, like, removing the formatting in here, it really is these 3 items, right? It's font size to default, just clicking on remove color from the font color, and remove color on the font background color. And that basically fixes your problem. So it's not a hard fix to go through and just knock those out.
Thank you.
And you may find too that changing the height of your pictures, those photos, to make it more consistent, to try to choose an aspect ratio that works across them all, because some are a little bit higher than others, and so that could look better too. There's just some little things that you can do like that. And then, I know this is controversial with the speakers, is editing the copy as well, to make the copy more consistent across them, right? Because that's always hard. You get some people give you 3 sentences, and then you get someone else gives you 3 paragraphs. It's like you kind of want it to be a little closer to the same for each one, right? But yes, that becomes difficult, dealing with a bunch of people. You have to get approval from 15 people to be able to change one sentence. Yeah. Cool. What's next?
Thank
So
you.
the next one is from Karen. She actually posted this in the Zoom chat, but I got this in here. Can I use Obvio to record an in-person event for later editing and repurposing before I launch a standalone event?
So there's no reason why not. So we're talking about recording in the cloud, in Zoom Cloud. So let me say yes, it is possible. You can certainly open Zoom, a Zoom area. You could not even, you can open a Zoom room that'll start it. You can record in the cloud, and you don't have to open the area, or you don't have to have a button on the dashboard that links that to anything, and so you can just have a Zoom meeting there, and then it will record in the cloud. So yes, it's possible. So what we would say generally about recording in the cloud is that we like to use that as a backup, and that we would like our primary recording to be of a higher quality. We find that the Zoom Cloud is quite good. It's good. It is quite good quality, but not as good as if you were to record locally. And so if you're using a camera, or even recording locally on your computer in the camera app on a PC, or a QuickTime on a Mac, recording locally there, you'll get a better image. Or if you're using an external camera, recording in that as well. And you might have other speakers, and so you need to think about that. But having a more of a local recording is the better approach, and then having the Zoom Cloud recording as a backup. So that's just something to think about. Just remember too that the Zoom Cloud recordings don't stay forever, and so it's best to go in and download those as soon as you can, just so that you know that you have them and have them stored somewhere safely, so that when they do remove from the Zoom Cloud, that you still have that recording. So
Thanks. So would I
Yep.
would I open the Zoom room through Obvio or just straight
Mhm.
Zoom?
Yeah, through Obvio, yeah. So you still create a Zoom area, and then that will create a room, and you'll start that room, and that is a Zoom meeting, working on our enterprise plan, which gives you all of those features of full HD and the unlimited cloud recording, and all of that all works in our Zoom. And then those recordings will end up back in that room level. Once it's processed, you'll see it there. I can quickly show you if you like.
Thank you.
So just so it's clear. Okay. And yeah. So Zoom areas. So as an example, you would create a new area, and it could be just recording. That's going to create an area, and it will create your first room here as well. And so then you would open it and start it, and that would launch Zoom, and away you go. And then when you're finished and in about real time to half time to real time is how long it would take to process whatever your recording was, you come back and you come to the room. So you click on the number, and then you'll see recordings there, and that's where the recordings will be, and then you can download them from there.
Okay, and finally, have you any experience or feedback on how this works or doesn't work on a Chromebook?
I think in general, Zoom doesn't like Chromebooks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be the best experience, and it won't process the video as well. I think it has to go through the browser too, and I'm not quite sure how. Yeah, I would say no.
I'm fairly certain that Zoom has actually officially stopped supporting Chromebooks, right? So at least
Yeah,
the
I'm
app.
on one now and have been for the last 2 years, but I run into issues frequently. So
So
yeah.
you're using it now, a Chromebook now.
Mhm.
Well, that's interesting.
It's a Microsoft Chromebook.
Those two words
Might-
usually don't go together.
I know,
No, they don't.
but it does have the little Microsoft box thing every time I turn it on.
That feels like
That
it's
sounds
Windows.
a Surface. That sounds like a Surface.
Yeah.
Have you got a start menu and you've got like Windows that's running Windows? You don't know.
Yeah, I see it. It
Okay.
says Microsoft though.
There you go. I think you're on a
That's
Surface
definitely- That's
and
not a Chromebook.
I'm
you
sorry, I didn't
installed.
hear that.
We're saying the same thing. I think
Oh.
you're on a Microsoft Surface, which is
Okay.
not a Chromebook, which is good news.
Yes.
and that's why it's working well,
Okay.
because you would have Zoom installed properly. And the first thing I did when you said you were on a Chromebook was I was checking the stats of what your video is that you're sending, and you're sending a 720p signal, which a Chromebook would likely not be able to do
Okay.
because it's so underpowered. So good news is you don't need to worry about it, Chromebooks, because you don't have one. So that's good. It looks like you've got the right equipment for the job.
Well, I've
so.
bought and returned an Apple laptop in the last 5 months.
Ooh.
And I want to get the right setup eventually, but I keep getting to do presentations before I can master new tech.
Fair enough.
So I want to launch ultimately before I do the next one.
Well,
so thank you.
You're touching on a religious topic there, about the fact that you bought a Mac and then took it back.
Yeah.
And I just can't be impartial to a discussion like that because
I
I'm such an
understand, and I
Apple
appreciate
fanboy.
it. I have had
It
them
just
both.
makes me sad.
Well, no, I had a whole desktop situation a year and a half ago and was hacked in my home twice in the same week, locking me out of it. It's not supposed to be possible.
Do you have teenagers?
No, I have a 7-year-old who at that time she was 5 and 6. Yeah, I know. And the people at work, I took it to work and they were like, yeah, you couldn't have done this. I'm like, I didn't do it. So
Wow.
I've just gone low tech as a result because I lost a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot there. So I guess what's interesting with that is that you believe that you went low tech by getting a Chromebook, but actually you've got a Surface, which is Windows, which arguably is more susceptible to the security. But if it's working, then great, and you haven't had the same problems, and you can just focus on your presentations and your work, then great. I'm glad it's working out for you.
Thank you.
And your recordings will work fine. So
Thanks.
all the best with that.
Relief.
Yeah. All right. Next question.
So this is from Heather. She said her client has been sending Facebook ads to the funnel for 2 weeks. Yesterday, we sent out a here's your link for tomorrow email, and we got messages that the link was blank. When me and my tech guy looked into it, it looks like the Go High Level Obvio connection was connected, but Obvio did not create the attendee, so the link was not generated. Once we saw that, and since the event was the other day, we reverted everything back to Go High Level, to Zapier, to Obvio. We did that, then Obvio generated the link, and then we manually sent them all back to Go High Level.
I'll jump in there. So basically, we connected everything with the new Go High Level connection, and it worked for about 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, it just stopped. We checked it again, and because the event was literally starting yesterday, we just reverted back to Zapier. So I was just giving you guys a heads up. And what was happening was something about the connection. Obvio wasn't creating the attendee, so it was not able to bring back a unique link.
I'm curious if you guys have been able to check that or.
What I'll say is we haven't been able to replicate it.
Okay.
What has happened in the past couple of weeks, as we have been making some changes to some backend infrastructure to actually make Obvio less susceptible to high volumes of traffic, is we have had a couple of instances where integrations have had to be reconnected. So it's possible that your Go High Level integration was disconnected as a result of that. But what should have fixed it was reconnecting Go High Level and then turning the sync toggle on the top of the Go High Level integration or services page.
On Obvio side or on Go High Level side, the toggle?
No, on Obvio side.
Okay, so you're suggesting we disconnect, reconnect, and it is on because it worked for a week. So what I'm hearing you say is maybe something happened. We need to do reconnection.
That would be my gut, and then see how things progress from there. And
Okay.
I would just, eyeball it on a regular basis. How's it going? Is it, we had an issue with something else. I was having trouble with a client's HubSpot account a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago. And we wound up, basically every day, a couple times a day, I would just go to the services page to make sure things were still connected, because otherwise there's no indication that it's not connected anymore, outside of just going to take a look. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I was, it happened in the 9th hour, right? That our assistant actually figured it out. Like, oh, they're not giving us links, so, and then we just we saw, oh, look, it's not working. And we just reverted back to Zapier because it's still just kind of sitting there.
Well, and I understand going back to the thing that is working in that moment. However, what I would say to you is relinking Go High Level would have taken less time than setting up Zapier.
Oh, for sure. But we just weren't sure, and it was the 9th hour. So what because their events next week, they do it every week. So what we'll do is after this week's, then we'll go in and do the GHL and give you guys that, see what happens and let you guys know what if there's any issues or anything like that. So I know it's new for you guys, so I just want to give you a heads up what's happening over here. But yeah, I'll ask my guy to do that starting Friday for the next week. And see
Sounds
what
good.
happens. Cool. All right. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
So
What's
our next
Heather?
question is from Dorita. She said, is there any way to have 2 different waivers, one for attendees and one for speakers logistically?
Sorry, can you ask that question again?
Is it two waivers, 2 different waivers for different people? I couldn't remember. Enterprise?
I think that's an enterprise feature.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So there is a way to do multiple waivers based on tags or groups, but that is an enterprise only feature. But it's works how you would expect it to, I guess. It's really awesome if that's what you're trying to do. It's just one of those things that so few people are trying to have multiple waivers. So there you have it.
Muddy's like, oh, something I didn't realize that I've already paid for.
Yeah, they had an
Nice.
issue with one of the keynotes not wanting to sign the waiver coming in because of what it said, because it was really more relevant to the attendees, and they didn't want to sign it.
So what you can do, and I don't think you need an enterprise account to do this, is you can skip waivers based on rules. I'm pretty sure that's there. So at the top of the let's see, where's
Can we look
my,
at my account to simplify?
sure. What's the,
DL Hatchett and Associates and simplify.
DL Hatchets and Associates. Okay. And which is the event that we're looking at? Is it the DL Hatchets and Associates LLC meeting, or is it
Simplify, SIMPLI5?
I don't see that under DL Hatchets and Associates. Is it? Maybe it's in another organization.
We have them as the organization, Simplify.
Oh, got it.
It's in my account. I'm sorry. I wasn't clear.
How do you spell
meanwhile,
simplify? Oh, there it is. Reframe 2023 simply 5 powered
Yes.
by 5 Dynamics. Is that the
Yes.
organization?
Mhm.
Okay, got it. And the event is the reframe event?
Yes.
so meanwhile,
All right.
Kat, we can confirm that you don't have head lice. We can in your we can see
Okay.
your
So going to check in and going to waiver, you can see that there's this skip waiver rule. And if you have a speaker that is going through the process and they don't want to sign the waiver for a number of reasons, you can click on skip waiver rules. You can add a rule the same way you would add visibility rules. So you can be like tags includes speaker as an example. And then when you save that, which I'm not going to do, I'm going to cancel it. And then you would go into your attendees, find your speaker, and add the tag speaker like that and save it. Then when they go through the check-in process, they will skip the they'll skip the waiver step entirely. They won't even see it.
Okay. Yeah, and the question about a second waiver and what that might look like was we still wanted them to sign off on the media waiver because we record and they use it and we take photos and screenshots and things like that. So
yeah, and if this is a speaker, if I was you and I was doing this, I would send them a waiver via Adobe Sign that they need to sign before entering the event. Like it's a standard speaker agreement, right, Dorita? So I wouldn't even bother. I mean, when we do that with guest speakers, even when they're going through Zoom or through Obvio, just because it's easier. And I clearly have an enterprise account, right? We have all features turned on our account. So I have the ability to add a second waiver inside of the waiver step, and I choose not to use it. I personally just choose to go ahead and just send them the waiver via Adobe Sign or something along those lines, DocuSign.
Okay, great, thank you.
Where we have used it, and the reason we sort of built it out is when we have large crews and things where we have hundreds of crew that are working on a large event, and we need them to sign something completely different to our attendees. That's the reason we have it. And if you ever had a need for that, that would be another reason for you to upgrade to enterprise. One day.
One day, yeah.
All right, next question.
This one is from Muddy. He said, it seems that the current Obvio marketplace registration system allows duplicate attendees to be created in Obvio. Could this cause an issue for communication? We had a few attendees report not getting purchase confirmation emails nor broadcast emails.
Maybe. So I'll just start with, it shouldn't allow you to create multiple contacts. So that's bug fix number one for us to work on. And then as for bug fix number two, or bug issue number two, if there were two contacts with the same email address, they should have both received a way around. So,
and Muddy, you saying that they were both created through Marketplace? It wasn't one wasn't created manually.
Yeah, that's right. So they went through Marketplace. They didn't get a purchase confirmation email, and so they thought maybe it didn't take. So they registered again. And then they registered again.
Gotcha.
So in some cases, I had. Okay. So it happened. Probably 5 different people had 2 or 3, and when I looked at them, they all had unique. I sent the details too in a help message if you want to look at it on the back end. But I deleted them since then. They had unique magic links, and I could see actually that someone had signed in on 2 different dates with 2 different magic links, right? So they clicked the link. So it seems like it shouldn't be a problem. They just would be getting multiple emails, and it doesn't, it shouldn't really cause a problem, I wouldn't expect, based on that experience. And I tried to go in and make one of the duplicates inactive so that I just wouldn't be sending them multiple emails with different links. But I couldn't make them inactive, because I couldn't disable the attendee because it said this email address is already in use. So yeah. I went ahead and deleted all the duplicates, and who knows? I sent out a replay email this morning, so haven't had any reports today. But my original thought was maybe it went to spam, but I know there's a really high deliverability rate with this email system, so I haven't really heard of any going to spam either. So
yeah, there is, and weird stuff still happens with email, right? So that was actually going to be my next question, which is, are we 100% positive that it didn't go to spam? Have we had that user look for emails from noreply@obv.io? Because that's technically the email address they come from. And not just look in their inbox, but generally searching. Most email systems, when you search from just the normal search box, actually exclude spam folders, unless you specifically go into the spam folder and search from that location, or go through like an advanced search to specifically search inside the spam folder. So there's a number of checks to see what happened there. And that's kind of my gut as to what was going on, because I also saw I did see some email communication back and forth between Heather and one of our development team members, looking at the broadcast that you sent to see if we saw any errors on our end. And the broadcast emails sent matched the number of emails that should have been sent. So yeah, that just kind of comes back to, that's a little weird. And truthfully, I'm still not entirely convinced that there wasn't a problem because of duplicate email addresses. So feels like we have to solve that problem first.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that's a problem. It shouldn't be allowed to create duplicate in anywhere in the system, and so that we need to fix that first. But also just chasing spam rules, is like chasing the wind. If it was easy, then everyone would get around it, and we would have our inboxes full of spam. So, and excuse me, it's a tricky one too. With even the copy in your email can flag spam filters as well, and so depending on how it's laid out, and the type of thing in there, it can trigger spam. So, and then once it's triggered once for that user, it's likely to continue to go into spam unless they manually pull it out. So, but you know all that, Muddy, but it's a tricky one. Spam is always a hard one. We do as much as we can to keep out of out of the spam folders, but sometimes it just does still go in there for a number of unknown reasons. But we'll get onto that. As you know, we're talking about 2 beta features in Marketplace and Broadcast, but we'll get onto that duplication issue. Cool. Next question.
Muddy just posted in the chat, speaking of Marketplace. So are there any updates on that? Sorry.
One worth talking about.
Perfect.
We're still working on it. We are hard at work, Muddy. We are hard at work on the new version of Marketplace. I will tell you that the development team has, that is their focus this week. So the last, and we've talked about this on these Q&A calls fairly openly, possibly more openly than we should, but it is what it is. So, August and September were largely refocused away from Marketplace onto infrastructure issues that we found at large scale. And, the team really doubled down on some of those issues that we found, that we tracked down, that happened when we had, over 50,000 attendees on the platform simultaneously. And, it's not something that was an easy fix. We were in conversation with AWS. We were in conversation with our systems operations team that we employ. There were a lot of people involved in, resolving some of those things that most people were never affected by and would never see as an issue, but are something that this is similar to build one, pay once, cry once, or cry once, buy once, cry once, whatever, Grant's saying is. The efforts that we put in over the course of the last couple months are something that in reality we'll see from time to time when we have a large event on the platform. But the reason that we put the effort into it is not just that, but also as we lead into 2024 and we start putting some marketing efforts behind the platform, and more people start using it, 100 events of 1,000 people is going to generate more traffic than one event of 50,000 people, right? So those are the things that we're starting to think about, and hope for. So these are problems that we needed to address. Now that those problems have been largely addressed, we've started to refocus onto Marketplace. And I will tell you that I had a fairly blunt conversation with our team about 2 features that absolutely needed to be in place by the end of this year. And when I said the end of this year, I actually gave them a deadline of November 1st. December 1st, because end of this year, like December is largely a lost month for us, because pretty much 2 weeks of, and this is true for so many people, right? 2 weeks of the year, we're essentially shut down as a company. Not Obvio, but Sage. So with that being said, that's kind of the new deadline that I've given them. And we're putting essentially the entire team on that starting next week. We have a couple of little things that needed to get put in place in order to allow the entire team to start working on Marketplace. And then we're moving to statistics. And at the same time, we also have a new template that's being worked on that we're really excited about, that has a new design compared to other things that we've launched in the past. And at the same time, we also have a developer working on ConvertKit integration. So there's a bunch of things going on simultaneously, but Marketplace is a core feature. Essentially what Grant and I have kind of come down to is, until Marketplace and Broadcasts and SMS are out of beta and public, we're not going to be marketing the platform until that happens. And, because we see them as core features. to most users. Like many of you are able to work without Marketplace and Broadcast because you're using external services, like like Eventbrite or whatever to sell your tickets and then communicate with your attendees. But we really want to, when we go more wide market, be an all-in-one solution for people so that they can sell their tickets, host their event, communicate with their attendees, and by not just email but also by SMS, and then see what their events look like from a statistics perspective, and follow up with people. Kind of our full full circle solution that we're looking at.
Nice.
Awesome. So our next question is from Jenny. Longtime Leap listener, first time Obvio caller. One, I heard that we get help setting up our first one. How do we access that? Two, if I want to avoid using Vapier, maybe it's Zapier, and keep this as simple as possible, what email provider / CRM should I buy that plays the nicest and the simplest with Obvio?
We have 5 solutions right now that play really well with Obvio. You've got MailChimp, you've got Keep, you've got ActiveCampaign, and you've got HubSpot and Go High Level. So those are the 5 solutions, most of which can be fairly all in one. And beyond that, they all work natively with Obvio. ConvertKit is another platform that we are working on right now, which will give you another option, a 6th option that works really well and plays really well with the platform. And I would say to you, any one of those 5 options would be great options to look at.
Cool.
Okay. The next one is from Marley. When would you recommend we create a default password for attendees versus having them create their own?
I would always create a default password. Sorry, I would always create a default password, even if I was having attendees create a password on their own, just so that you have it as a backdoor solution in case for some reason somebody hasn't received their magic link. So that's thing number 1. Their password or creating a password, I will tell you that we have started to lean away from actually using that feature for our events. And the main reason that we've started to do that is because it's an extra step that people have to take. And we are generally sending people magic links to click on. And when they click on the magic link, it bypasses the need for them to use their password. So, we're still, I would say we are probably 50-50 right now in terms of events that are using the password step and events that are not. I'll tell you that free events, events that are, or really low cost events, we're at like 99% of those are not using the password and more using a default password in combination with a magic link. And again, that comes down to ease of entry, right? We want to have as few barriers to entry as possible on that front. So hopefully that helps.
It does. If I can have a clarifying point there. If I just turn off the password step, then, and just send them the magic link, they click the magic link and they enter their dashboard. There's no need even to create the default password. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
But I would still create the default password because there's no downside to creating the default password, even if you don't tell anybody about it. It's one of those things that when I say you can have that in your back pocket, it's used more as a customer service tool in cases where somebody is like, I don't have the email, I can't find my link. How do I get in? Right? Oh, just go to tve7.obv.io, enter your email address and the password, awesomeness.
That answers
Right?
my question and makes it super clear for me. Thank you so much.
That's cool. Yeah, I would say a big part of the change for us is as our broadcast feature is more built out, the need for us to have passwords is diminishing. So it's still a feature that will keep there, to Blue's point, for that support. It's very, very helpful. But now that we're able to send welcome emails, we're able to, trigger off broadcast emails directly from Obvio, we can get people their magic link. That's what we want to do. Before we had our broadcast feature, we were relying on those CRMs and trying to make sure all of that was working. And for some of these events, we didn't need a CRM. And so that's how I've seen it, that as that builds out more and more and we get more of these broadcast features, then we're not needing passwords so much. And I like the idea of people just being able to, potentially text messages now, like we're building that out. So people can join from their mobile devices directly from a text message, things like that, all without needing a password. So we'll always have that feature there, because of for that reason, for the support reason. But yeah, I like the idea of passwordless ways of getting in. All right, next question.
Yes, so this is also from Marley. How can I add my client's email address to Obvio in order to send a broadcast and welcome email? Also, please remind me what is the purpose and use of creating action tags when someone signs the waiver or checks in?
Oh, Blue opened. No, you're happy.
Either, I'm fine.
So the way you can definitely use any email address to send from, as long as you can get the verification email and verify that it's that it is an active email address and it's the one that you wanted to use with Obvio. So if it was a client's address, then the verification would go to their address, and that would need to be clicked, and then that would activate the verification, and then that would be available in the drop down to choose as an email to send from. So remember too that this is always it's a reply to address, and so it appears that it's coming through, but if people sort of push into a little bit, they'll see, as Blue said before, it comes from no reply at Obvio. And so there are, just bear in mind, I've seen a couple, it's very, very rare, but occasionally an email client will ignore the reply to, and it will, when they hit reply, it will come to no reply and not to the reply to, but it's rare. And so the reason I say that is that I think it's important to include a support email in the body of your email text, right? Just to be clear, if you need to get in contact with us, email us at this address, and that just makes it, ties it all together nicely. And so that's the way that verification email works. It can come from anyone. You can add as many email addresses as you want, and it's all tied to your organization, right? So when you're doing sort of these multiple events for different clients or different teams, you want to think about how you use your organizations, so that you're not overlapping different clients on different events. So that's the reason you can think of an organization as a team, right? It also is all of your Stripe and email settings are all kind of tied into the organization. So you think about that when you're setting that up. You want to ask something, Molly?
To actually add the email address into an organization, I wasn't clear on how I can do that.
Oh, yeah. So in the organization settings.
In the settings. Okay.
Yeah, organization settings. Yeah. So
I'm actually in Marley's organization. So here, Marley, what you do is you click on your org name right here, and you go to settings, and then you type in the first name, or sorry, the
There it
from
is.
name for name and the email address, and you click add. And what's going to happen when you do that, Marley, is that email address is going to get an email that essentially says, click the following link to be able to send emails from this email address. And you have to click that link it's like confirming ownership of the email address, basically. And then once you click on it, it'll take you back to Obvio, and it'll say, congratulations, you can now send emails from Blue Melnick and the email address blue@poweredbysage.com. And then you'll be able to select it as a from email address in the broadcaster.
Awesome.
And there was a second part you were talking about action tags tied to waiver and check-ins. Are you're tying back to an integration with that?
Isn't she using? She's using MailChimp, isn't she?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, maybe
Yes.
not. Okay.
So Marley, this answer is not just for Marley, but it's for everybody. Those action tags inside of service integrations are meant for ways for you to be able to identify attendees who have taken specific actions on the platform, like on Obvio, but within your own CRM. So if you define a tag to be applied when they sign the waiver, then when they sign the waiver, they'll get that tag. If you define a tag for them to get when they check in, then when they check in, they'll get that tag. And what that allows you to do, Marley, is it allows you just to see statistics, right? But numbers by themselves are useless unless you take action on them. So one of the things that we do oftentimes is we'll send out an email to everybody who has signed the waiver but hasn't checked in yet that says something along the lines of, hey, it's Blue. I noticed that you signed the waiver, but you didn't complete the check-in process. Good news. The team is waiting for you right now to come get yourself checked in. Click here and we'll see you soon. And rather than sending those people who have signed the waiver but have not yet checked in the same check-in email that everybody else gets, right? Like the come check in email, we customize those ones who have signed because sometimes overnight, right? Like if you're doing a tech check and you're doing it, let's say you're doing the day before the event and then the morning of the event, you're doing tech check, right? This is what happens. You send out an email at 10 o'clock in the morning that says, hey, tech check is open and it's open till 6 o'clock today. Come check in. Then halfway through the day, you'll send them another email that says, hey, we still have 3 hours left in check-in. And then at 6 o'clock or 15 minutes before 6, you'll send them another email that says, there's only 15 minutes left, but good news, we're opening up again tomorrow morning. Okay. So now here's what humans do. 6:30 rolls around. You've closed check-in, right? You've let your team go. They see the email. They don't really read the email that says, oh, by the way, we're closed. They click on the link to go check in. They get to the point where they've signed the waiver, and then they can't check in because there's nobody there to do a tech check with. So now this person has, from their perspective, done what they need to do, right? Like, oh, I signed the waiver. I guess that's what tech check is. Because remember, this is somebody who already doesn't really pay attention because they already clicked on an email that said we're no longer open, right? And this is not to disparage that person. This is just what people do. And I know that because we have literally, like on some of our larger events, like on and where we have 2 days of check-in between day 1 and day 2 overnight, we literally can get like hundreds to sometimes thousands of people who sign the waiver while we're offline, which means they clicked on the button after we told them we were closed. So it just happens. Anyway, so being able to customize that email is is nice. It's not necessary, right? It's definitely what I would call an advanced level move, right? When you are starting to customize your email communication based on those actions, it's definitely an advanced level move. So the other way that we use that is, when I wake up in the morning on day one, before tech check starts, I will look at how many people have checked in as an interesting data point, but then I'll also look at how many people have signed the waiver but haven't checked in, because I know that those people are likely to come on day one, right? So, you had 100 people registered for the event, only 50 people checked in on day one. Oh, but this is interesting. Overnight, we actually have 75 people who have signed the waiver, but only 50 have checked in. What happened? What's with these extra 25? Oh, good news. Those extra 25 probably clicked to the button after we closed tech check down and went through the process. What does that mean? It means they're likely to show up today, right? Because they're engaging with your emails. So it can be an interesting data point for you to have. I know that's a long-winded answer to what is a seemingly simple question, but there you have it.
That was helpful because I didn't really understand, like the different uses for it. So those action tags would live inside of the CRM, in my case, MailChimp, and inside Obvio. Like I could use those tags.
They actually only live inside of your CRM. They actually don't live
Okay.
inside of.
Okay, good.
Actually,
That's
no.
good to know too.
No. So hold on one second. Hold on. That's not entirely true. They actually wind up inside of Obvio, but we're applying them inside of MailChimp. And then it's a really convoluted way to do it. But then MailChimp is then telling us, hey, this person has a new tag, and we apply the tag inside of Obvio as well. So when you're using action tags, they do actually wind up in both places with all of the CRMs.
Yeah, that's a roundabout way of saying
it. It is. I confused myself on that one. So if that was confusing to any of you, I apologize.
I would just say this, that the key identifier of someone who has checked in or not checked in is something that is available as a filter within broadcasts of Obvio, right? And so when we do these integrations and we have broadcasts within Obvio, we have these sort of overlapping and different features, right? But we purposely built the broadcast engine in Obvio to be able to filter specifically for someone who has checked in or not checked in, so that you could send emails to people and just say, hey, it starts in an hour and you haven't been to the dashboard yet, and so that's very helpful, that sort of email, because particularly if you have information or resources on your dashboard that you want them to access before the event, hey, there's a really important primer video, intro video that goes for 10 minutes. It's on the dashboard. We really want you to see that before the event starts. And we notice you haven't checked in yet. You haven't gone to the dashboard. You might not even use the term check in, right? Because you may not have tech check turned on. But as soon as someone goes to the dashboard, they are checked in. That's the term that we use. And so that's really helpful. Lots of these things scale really well because you can start to.
That night.
You're unmuted, Blue. I don't want to hear Chuck. Lots of those, the scale that I was thinking about is the more specific, like the Blue was talking about, that they had signed the waiver but hadn't actually got to the dashboard. As your event scales and you have more and more people, then that becomes quite a large number of people, and you want to automate that process. With smaller events, that might only be 1 or 2 people, and you can manage that manually. So it's those sorts of things that we think about. But if it works big, it works small, and having some of those automation steps in is really helpful, because then it picks up and sends out. You can schedule all of this. And that's the thing that I love about automation, is I want to take the pressure off of my event day, and I want to do it 2 weeks out. I want to plan all that stuff so that I know that a scheduled email is going to go out automatically an hour before or whatever I want, but an hour before the event starts, and handles all of these edge cases of people not being able to get in or whatever. And so that's where I like being able to schedule a whole bunch of stuff and I don't have to think about it. So anyway, we well and truly covered that topic. Heather.
Yes. So this one is from Amy. She actually sent me this in an email. She wasn't able to make this call, but wanted to re-listen to this. But she said that she had successfully connected Searchy to her Obvio event in her organization, the Animal Chiropractic Education Source Basecamp Pro. However, it has not uploaded new recent recordings. Do you know enough about the Searchy to explain this? I have 47 hours worth of space on Searchy and it tells me it's uploading 0, or that the 47 hours when I try to upload the files.
I don't know that we do know. Okay, so because unfortunately there's a follow-up question that it would be helpful if you were present. So my question is, do the recordings show up in the Searchy interface and they're just not importing? Or do the recordings not even show up in the Searchy interface? Flying to Hawaii. Okay, well, I don't feel too bad for her. I think that's the first question. So Heather, if we could just ask her to go ahead and answer that. And then we'll take it from there. A follow-up question is, the way the Searchy integration works is it's event-based. So if you connect Searchy for one event, and then you go and create another event, and you're expecting it to import the recordings from that second event, it won't do that automatically. You have to connect Searchy to the second event. So it could be that as well. That's going on. Again, without her being on the call, I'm not sure how else I can support.
No worries. She said she would listen to this, so I'll send her a follow-up email also.
Cool.
Thank you.
Of course, yeah.
And as of right now, we don't have any more questions that have come in.
Sarah, I saw you're talking about Kajabi. You're thinking about if you could have those tags into Kajabi. Is that what you're saying?
If it works the same way as you described.
With Zapier, with the Zapier integration, you should be able to do that. Yeah. So you should be able to update the attendee records in both places with those action tags. You know, so that something has happened. So it just depends how you can handle that in Kajabi using Zapier to connect it.
Okay,
But
perfect.
in theory,
Thank you.
absolutely. Cool. So we've got no more questions there. Have people got anything else they wanted to discuss? Sometimes people hold on to their questions right to the end. No. It could be an early minute.
Laura has her hand raised.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Laura, go ahead.
Hi, Laura Aziz here. I have a question about running a summit using Sage versus some other software I heard that specialize in running summits. Like I think there is Hey Summit. And I know at the beginning of the session, we showed the page of, I meant Obvio, sorry, not Sage, but we showed the dashboard of someone, I think, doing a summit. So I want to understand if we Obvio can handle a summit over, say, few days or a week, or should I go with the Hey Summit?
So not being familiar with Hey Summit, I can't speak specifically to how it compares to using Obvio. So what I'll say is you can absolutely set up a summit on the platform. And for everybody to know, a summit is generally speaking a style of event that oftentimes takes place over an extended period of time and usually has a host interviewing a series of speakers on a generally consolidated topic, meaning, you know, I'm going to do a summit on list building, and it's going to be over the course of the next 10 days. And we have 10 amazing speakers, each of whom are going to talk on a very specific topic. And I think the Obvio dashboard lends itself very, very well to the summit system, right? And the summit model, because every day that you invite people into the summit, you can have information about your speakers on the summit. Oftentimes, your speakers in a summit model, if you're selling something as a part of that summit, or if you're trying to upgrade people into recordings, oftentimes your guest speakers will actually then, when they speak, include a bonus for people who purchased. And that's then information that you can bring into the dashboard in a really easy way, right? So the thing that makes Obvio really solid and a great option for not just events, like long form events like we think of them, but short form events like challenges, like launches, like summits, even like webinars, is the ability to have an easy way to configure a great looking website for your event, whether it's a summit, a challenge, a launch, you know, a one-day event, a multi-day event, whatever. A great way to provide information, downloadable resources, in some cases even provide replays for your event within the dashboard model. You know, and it's not to say that other platforms aren't great. There are a lot of great platforms, but I do think that Obvio was specifically built around single purpose or single topic event. And a summit is definitely one of those things. So I think it works great for summits.
Okay, no, that's good to know. I don't want to go and try to learn another system, you know, that's perfect.
Yeah, and then the changes that we made, here's something else to know. The changes that we made over the course of from November of last year through the spring of this year, where we completely revamped our billing structure. You can now do events of unlimited duration, right? So this is really good for a summit because oftentimes summits are longer period of time. Like I've seen summits that are like a 60-day summit, as an example. I'm not advocating for that. I've just seen that.
Yeah.
I think that's a little long. But if you were doing a 60-day summit, you could have that event run on Obvio, and it doesn't cost any more or any less than if you were doing a 5-day event or a 3-day event, because we went to that unlimited duration model. Specifically for events of this type, right? Because launches, challenges, summits that usually are free also generally are over a longer period of time. You know, we have people who are doing a launch on the platform where the launch is really only 3 days of teaching, but it's spread out over 14 days. And that was a problem initially for Obvio because once you went over 4 days, it started to cost more money. Well, that's no longer the case. And then we went to the second thing that we did in the spring of this year was you could have unlimited events for up 500 people on Obvio Pro, which is what most of you have. But that was 500 registered attendees, regardless of whether or not they showed up for your event, right? So, and sometimes with free events, you get really high registration, but you get really low show up. And that's not uncommon with summits, right? You may get 1,000 people sign up, but only 200 people, 250 people actually show up. So the second thing that we did in the spring of this year was we went to a model that counts what we call active attendees. And an active attendee is any attendee who accesses the dashboard at some point over the course of your event, right? So if they show up once, they count as an active attendee. But the good news around that is all those people who sign up for your free thing, your webinar, your summit, your challenge, your launch, but then forget about it and never show up. And we all know there's lots of those people, right?
Yep.
You don't get charged for those people at all. And you don't have to work. So then they don't count towards your 500 attendees, which is really nice, especially for free events.
Yep. No, that sounds great. I like the encouragement here. I was worried that I heard from others that, you know, there are other programs that for Summit, but I thought if I focus on one system and master it for multi-use, you know, depending on what event I'm running, would be much better in the long run. So thank you for the encouragement.
You're welcome. I also think Zoom is one of the best platforms to actually engage with your attendees, right? And I also, especially for free events, Zoom is a very what I call sticky platform. Meaning when somebody gets into a Zoom meeting, they don't leave very quickly. And a lot of those other that specialize in launches, that specialize in summits, they deliver video within a web browser. And web browsers are really easy to go to another place really fast. So what we find that happens when we compare how long people stay on free events in Zoom or on Obvio compared to how long people stay on a live streamed event, whether it's in YouTube, Facebook, or even streamed to your own website, like probably the Summit application that you talked about would do, we find a much higher stick rate, a much higher viewership rate in Zoom, much longer duration. And the longer they stay, the more likely they are to be compelled by your message and then, of course, convert into whatever the outcome is that you're looking for.
Agree. And also the ease of use of Zoom makes it easy for us. Like
everybody knows what Zoom is. There's literally, after the last 3.5 years that we all, well, almost 4 years now that we all lived through and thrived through as a virtual event community. I know there are personal tragedies. I'm not addressing those, and nobody's happy about any of those. But from a virtual event perspective, COVID was, and the pandemic was fantastic for virtual events. It moved virtual events like 50 years ahead of what we would have done had we not been presented with a need, right? And that need was, how do we get together? How do we gather when we're not allowed to gather? How do we gather? And Zoom really is such an amazing way to do that. So there you go.
Yeah, it became mainstream. Household name.
Grant and I just get to.
No, thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. All right. Did that trigger any other questions, Heather? Are we wrapping it up for the day?
Yeah, no more questions have come through.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. It's great to see you all. Grant, good to see you.
Good to see you, Blue. another week. Thank you, everyone. You can join us next week if you're game at 8 a.m. Eastern and next Wednesday, and we'll do it all again. We can you can come to this link at any time during the week and post questions, right? So you can post questions on the dashboard if you're thinking of it at the time, you can put it there. And then the only real reason that we live stream these to YouTube is just so it's really easy for you to go and review them, right? So even now, you can go back over Zoom and you can scrub back in history, and so it's in YouTube. You can go back and review that straight away. So my point is, you could during the week post a question, and then even if you couldn't make the call, then you could go and look at it when you do, and you can find that question in there. So there you go. Thanks, everyone. We'll
Okay.
see you next
Bye-bye.
week.
Thank you.
Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye.